The movie opens with John Wick, pounding his bloody fist against thick ropes. The Bowery King walks in, reciting words of fear, announcing that everyone will face the wrath of the king. The Bowery King asks John if he is ready, and John sternly replies,
"Yeah."
There lies the beautiful sunrise, with horsemen approaching speedily, shots are heard firing, hitting one. John continues shooting while the horses gallop, another man gets shot, and there comes another. John gets off his horse while unloading his gun. He kneels down before the elder, announcing, "My ring, my freedom," of which he learned that both his ring is gone and the only way to get his freedom is through death. The elder thinks that John came a long way for nothing, but John gets up and shoots him in the head twice. John turns and walks away. Harbinger walks into the hotel in a dark suit and face slightly covered, carrying a briefcase, walks up to the counter, and places a sealed envelope on the counter, asking for the manager. Karen picks up the phone and calls Winston, announcing that the Harbinger is here to see him. Harbinger brings news telling Winston that the hotel has been condemned and has 1 hour to leave. Winston then gives the directive to vacate the hotel. Winston and Karen enter the Continental, talking about the time of Winston's death, but Karen assures him it's not his time. Marquis quotes his father by saying, "How you do anything is how you do everything." He goes on to ask the manager if he believes in rules, and Winston responds by saying yes and also to second chances. Marquis, Winston, and Karen continue the discussion about the fate of the hotel. Marquis watches the building burn to the ground, turns around, and tells the manager that he is no longer needed, neither is the concierge, and points his gun at Karen and shoots him in the chest. The manager goes and holds his hand while the concierge tells him it was an honor to work with him. Marquis left while telling the manager to contemplate what they would have benefited from their conversation and demanded to be brought Kane. Calmly and peacefully, Kane is seen sitting and listening to the sweet sound of a young girl playing the violin. Several moments later, he appeared before Marquis. After reaching for the item on the platter, Kane runs his finger over the edge of the card, and John Wick's name appears. He was a friend, and as such, it seemed difficult for Kane, but in the end, he offered to be of service to Marquis. Tracker and his service support animal arrived at the hotel wanting a room, which they did receive. Akira and Shimazu walk and talk about important matters such as his well-being, New York, and John Wick. Should they be worried about the table? He doesn't think so because he did nothing wrong to offend such. As Akira leaves, he asks that she tells the daughter that he looks forward to their dinner. Shimazu is seen talking to John and hopes he is at peace, but from the look on John's face, he guesses otherwise. Sitting to finish the discussion regarding the table, it comes to one conclusion: death never stops. It continuously takes life. John apologizes for the trouble he has caused Shimazu. The tracker and his dog fiercely scout the lobby where they were sitting while dangerous men came seeking the manager. John and Shimazu continue their conversation when Akira appears with news of the table's visits. She sees John and gets upset. Shimazu leaves to greet the table council and tells Akira to stay with John. Shimazu informs the others of the visit of the table and quickly gathered their swords. The table demands full rights to the Continental grounds as they would have every right to do so as they speak for the higher council. The exchange of words continues when Kane enters to greet the master. They greet each other and speak briefly of family issues. After an exchange of words and the condemnation of the hotel, the issue continued. Shimazu turned off all lights, and attacks on the council members started.
¡Mátenlos a todos!
Quick sword swings, gunshots, arrow shooting, fisting, and extensive fights caused the deaths of almost all council members. From out of nowhere entered men in masks and suits with more guns looking for Wick. Shimazu commanded that his troop falls back, while the soldiers were ordered to find Wick. Once again, the battle began. Akira and Wick took on a whole army of soldiers with one gun and an arrow. Shimazu fought with so much strength and a fierce attitude to defeat the enemies, while in the corner, Kane drank soup. Kane appeared blind but managed to not get hit when being fired at. Instead, he killed the men. With the sound of bells, he managed to overcome the last 3 men who were after him. The bell dinged with the slightest movement. In a room filled with colored glass, John was seen fighting more table men alone. With nunchucks, John smashed the men to shreds, but he was overpowered by one big dude who he had to use a gun on. He fought reluctantly, but 2 wouldn't give up. Eventually, he shot them. John was saved with the help of the tracker, or so he thought. John Wick was now on the market as an open target. Whoever kills him will be rewarded. John and the tracker come face to face pointing guns at each other, with John learning of the reward on his head. Tracker saves John once again by shooting another hitman. Akira and her dad struggle to get free when they see Kane sitting in front of a dead body. Shimazu attempts to fight with Kane but loses, and he dies. Winston and Bowery meet as they both are homeless now. Winston wishes to meet with John as the council is after him. The tracker arrives at the barn where Marquis is, as Marquis wishes to know if John Wick is found. Tracker requests 25 million to disclose the whereabouts of John. The price on John's head was bargained, but that didn't work out. Marquis grabs the hand of the tracker and stabs it onto a table, giving him a choice. What does the tracker do? He rips his hand to make a deal for John's head. John meets Winston, offering his condolences. As we all know, John is a man of few words. He came in search of a man which he learned he can be found in Paris. He is encouraged to kill this man smartly so he can have his way out. John was given two choices, either be in Berlin or pick a plot. Of course, he went to Berlin. This tracker guy is everywhere. Why is he here in Berlin? Lol, we know why. John is seen walking into a chapel. He walks up to the priest, but before he could say much, he was shot. The tracker calls Marquis and gives him John's location, but now the deal has changed. The tracker is told to kill John. The prodigal son has returned, said Katia. John is hanging from a rope wrapped around his neck, and with every word uttered from Katia, he is being choked and pulled more. John learns of Kyoto's death. He was killed by Marquis after John killed the elder. After John made it known that he could kill Marquis, the head spoke and decided that the only way that would be possible was if he was a part of a family and had a crest. He was beaten and forced to call himself Claus. John was stopped by a man he had shot in the ass, and they begin fighting, which later caused more fighting from other gang members, including Kane. While all this was happening, the partiers continued as if it were the norm. The epic fight scene, wouldn't you say? Kane sneaks up on Tracker as he was about to take down John and stopped him, declaring John as his. Desperate to be part of a family, John takes the crest from a burning pot along with Katia as a sign of his promise. Marquis and Winston meet once more to discuss yet again John Wick's new and old ways and habits. John wishes to break all ties and unconditionally release all duties to the table. Marquis is left to ponder if he will grant John's wishes and those of Winston. John, Winston, Kane, and Marquis meet to decide on a suitable time and place to end all things. They decide on weapons which include pistols and blades. Who will overcome the victor? A nomination is requested by Marquis, who is none other than Kane himself. If John wins, he will be free, and the hotel will be fully regained to those previously occupied. If John dies, so does Winston. If Kane wins, he will be free, and so will his daughter. Let the games begin. For a blind man, Kane does get around quickly. Feeling remorseful of wanting to leave the life he's currently living, Kane wanted to do better for his daughter, but he's hoping this will be the end of it all. Bowery and Winston come to meet John to help him prepare for the fight of his life, literally. As the reward on John's head continues to increase, everyone wants a piece of the pie. The young and the old gather their guns to search for John. One man and a gun against the world. Underground seemed like the most effective mode of transportation as they travel by boat to get to the church. As a final request in case of his death, John wants the engraving of "loving husband" on his grave. Cornered both ways, he heads for the street, causing multiple crashes which were, however, intended for him to be death by them all. The John we have been watching doesn't get put down that easily. He manages to escape but is now tailed by several cars. Still being hunted, John narrowly escapes as he is chased by a very daring man. This continues for several minutes. Each hunter receives their fair share of death. With minutes to go, John is still fighting eager and more demanding hunters as the price on his head keeps increasing. Can't these men die already? Poor John, so tired, and the more meaningful fight, the fight to determine his freedom from the table, is yet to come. Now he's down to his last two, or so he thought. Greeted by more men, John was kicked to the bottom of the steps where he started. Feeling defeated, Kane appeared and insisted he gets back to the top of the stairs. With each other's help, they fight once more. With 6 more men to go, with vigor and courage, John and Kane fought to get to the church on time. For a blind dude, Kane rocks, and so does Tracker's dog. Finally, John arrives at the church where Winston, Marquis, and Harbinger waited patiently. The men were served wine as they are being told that they seek truth and along comes their consequences. This is where it all boils down. Who will it be, John or Kane? Positions are taken, guns ready, and all men waiting to take their shots. Shots were fired, but merely a flesh wound. The space narrows down, guns reloaded with a single bullet, they fire again, this time they both get hit. The space gets smaller, and guns reloaded, but this time only John gets hit. All look sad, even the dog. Kane and his daughter are now free. Marquis, trying to be a hero, ended up being the one to die as John didn't shoot. How smart was he? John is now also free from the table. Winston is reinstated as manager, and all matters relating to the table have ended. John is heard asking Winston to take him home, and they left. Bloody, tired, and battered, John sits to rest and catches his breath, looking at the beautiful sunrise. As he looks, he sees himself kissing his late wife. Looking at the tombstone of Wick, they wondered about his resting place. Is it heaven or hell? What do you